Alright, we're going to give some time for everyone to get on, and we'll begin. I see it to you, Robbie. We're going to get started in a little bit. I'm just going to wait for everyone to get on, so... you got me, and you got Ryan, so you got friends. So, I say we'll start at around 9:47 is when I'll begin the story time. So, Robbie, how do you feel about watching a story time live? Alright, we'll get started in a minute. I just want to let people get on, so... And of course, I'll be staying online afterwards so that I can answer questions, just like I said in the announcement. You're gonna have to continue using chat. I'm gonna be beginning shortly, so, and I'm not gonna be using, voice chat. You can put your input in the chat while I'm talking about it, by the way. So, and don't worry, I'm gonna respond to it whenever I'm done with the story time. I'm gonna be staying online for a while, and so therefore you can not only will I be reading the chat, but also I'll be taking any questions that you have. So, all right, it's 9:47, and let's begin. So last week, I discussed the worst days of my life. I talked about 4 days I consider to be some of the worst days of my life, including the absolute worst day of my life. I recommend watching it first, as it will help you understand the story time a lot better. It is, of course, Storytime 23. Now, I really did not want to make last week's story time. The reason is because I hate talking about the bad in my life. I prefer to talk about the good. However, I've always wanted to make a story time on the best days of my life, but you cannot have the best without the worst. So I decided to just rip it off like a band-aid and do it. So because I did it, I can now have some fun and do a story time I want to do. Today, I'll bring you the best days of my life. I'm Zach, and it's Storytime 24 on June 11th, 2021. So this story time was a lot easier to write than last week's. As mentioned last week, I like to talk about the best days, so therefore, I was able to think about many more days. In fact, there have been so many best days in my life that I had to condense this list down to 10. These days were also so good that I can't even list the absolute best day. I of course can list the worst day ever, being March 8th, 2018, but for the best days, I really can't do that, as all the days listed are about as equally as great as each other. So this story time is going to be pretty similar, but at the same time different format than last week's. I'll be discussing 10 of the best days of my life. Just like last week, I'll be listing them chronologically, not by how good they were. However, this story time will also be quite different because most of these days do not relate to each other. This is why the backstories in this video are not in between events like the worst days, as instead they are literal backstories. However, a lot of these days do relate to some of the worst days of my life, so that's why I highly recommend watching Storytime 23 first before watching this story time. So let's start off with the first best day of my life, being Tuesday, June 7th, 2016. So this was the last day of 6th grade. Now, 6th grade was a very unusual school year for me. It was not my first year of middle school. Instead, it was my first and only school year at intermediate school. I attended a kindergarten through 5th grade elementary school. In 5th grade, me and my sister were both the most popular students at the school. I should note that my sister was in the 2nd grade when I was in the 5th grade, by the way, so she still kept her popularity. I had a ton of friends overall and was very well known at school. Everyone, including the little kindergartners, knew who me and my sister were, so you bet 5th grade was an absolutely amazing school year because of that. However, I did not go to middle school with everyone else. Instead, I transferred to a different district that was closer to where my parents worked. This district had an intermediate school, so that's where I went. My sister would also go there, but that's unrelated. This school year was a challenge, as I went from being literally the most popular person at school to the least popular. However, while 6th grade was a big challenge, I got through it and made some friends and even made all A's all year long, something that hadn't happened since 1st grade. I actually only got all A's all year long in just 4 school years total, being 1st grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, and 11th grade. So you bet I was satisfied. So for the last day, our school held an award ceremony for each grade. 6th grade went first, and then 5th grade. I was in 6th grade, obviously, so I got mine over with. This ceremony was really good. I got my name called when they announced who made all A's that year. Oh, and I also was the first person to be called for all A's, since it was by last name and nobody with the last name beginning in A was called, so it was me who was called first. Definitely a satisfying feeling. I also got called out for scoring over 200 AR points. AR, or Accelerated Reader, is basically something our state does for 1st through 8th grade, where you read a book and answer questions about it. I explain much more detail in my 8th grade Storytime, so check out Storytime 10 for more information. I'll also explain it in even more detail in my 6th grade Storytime, which won't be until August, so be on the lookout for that. Anyways, let's get back on topic. So as you could tell, getting all this recognition was really cool, as I was not very popular at school. My mom also attended the ceremony, so afterwards, mom signed me out and we headed back to her school. I should note that my mom's a teacher. She got her class to be with another class in order to attend my award ceremony, so shout out to her for that. Anyways, I hung out with her students for the rest of the day until they were released. She taught 4th grade, meaning it was the students' last day of elementary school. I got to answer any questions they had about intermediate school, as well as just talk to them about anything in general. It was really fun. At around lunchtime, my grandmother came over to pick me up. She attended my sister's award ceremony at her school, so they picked me up and took me to a local restaurant. They were still serving breakfast, so we ate breakfast for lunch that day. It was a fantastic meal. Afterwards, our grandmother then took us home. For the rest of the day, me and my sister didn't do much. Dad then got home at around 5:30 and was pretty happy, especially with me since I made all A's. Then my mom got home at around 7:30. She went grocery shopping, but food wasn't the only thing she bought me. She also bought a Wii U for me as a reward for making all A's that year. The Wii U was the newest Nintendo console at the time, by the way, as the Switch wasn't released until 2017. But I don't think that's the main reason. I'd say the main reason was simply for getting through the school year, as 6th grade was a very difficult school year, as mentioned before. So had I just simply made A's and B's, they probably would have bought the Wii U anyways. But nonetheless, while I was kind of expecting it, I was still very thrilled. I believe I stayed up to like 3 in the morning that night playing Super Mario Maker. Now for the next day, so this day was about 2 weeks later, on June 22nd, 2016. Not to be confused with June 21st, 2016, my 12th birthday. So if you look at when I started my YouTube channel, you'd see June 20th, 2016. While it is not public, my first video was uploaded June 22nd, 2016. So YouTube is something that I have been doing for almost 5 years now. I have loved it since I began when I was since I was a 12-year-old rising 7th grader. And I'd say I enjoy it even more now as an almost 17-year-old rising senior. However, even before I began making videos when I was 12, I always wanted to be a YouTuber. I'd say this passion really began when I watched Stampy Longhead when I was 8 or 9. Seeing him play Minecraft with all of his friends and just having such a fun time was something I always wanted to do. However, my parents would not let me start a YouTube channel until I was 12, but they did let me set up a Google account and a YouTube account the day before I turned 12. I was busy on the 21st, so I couldn't upload any videos. So the 22nd it was, and wow, this day was awesome. This would be the day I learned how to make YouTube videos. So let's talk about what I uploaded. So originally, I was going to upload a Minecraft video, but that failed because I realized that I would have to go get something to hold up my iPod, which is literally what I used to record my videos back then. Now I use my phone for Storytime, as well as my computer. So, my YouTube channel was founded on a game called The Dimpaman. It's basically a game where this thing called a Dimpaman roams around the world through radio waves. His friend, girlfriend, or wife, depending on the game, is named Crystal. Crystal seems to get herself kidnapped by the King of Evil all the time, and it's up to you to help her. I'd argue that this is one of the weirdest games I've ever played, maybe on the level of Metopia weird, but nonetheless, it's really fun. I've been playing this game since it was released in North America in September of 2012. My first video was called Dimpa Digital Underground 1. I should note that this and every other Dimpa video is private. All videos prior to December 2020 are private, and my last Dimpa video was uploaded in March of 2018. However, this video may or may not be released to the public in 11 days. A little bit of foreshadowing right there. So about this video, it was the first video I ever uploaded. I had just turned 12 years old, so my voice was very high-pitched, as I was in that awkward stage of puberty. I love rewatching this video, as it's definitely nostalgic to hear myself from 5 years ago. Wow, it was that long ago? Felt like yesterday. Anyways, I had a blast recording this video. That day in particular was a blast. I uploaded a total of 8 videos that day, definitely a highlight of the summer of 2016. I also love this day because it shows growth in my knowledge and skill at the game, so I had some experience with the Dimpa. While it was the first time I played in 2 years, I still had some experience, although I was very clueless. Now, I'm literally the best player in the world outside Japan. I'm constantly racking up first place in the Coliseum, so seeing how skilled I was back then compared to now definitely makes me really happy. Another thing I want to mention is my recording style. So these videos were obviously not scripted, as they were a playthrough. Not only that, but they had pretty poor quality, as they were literally recorded with an iPod Touch. You also had to deal with my voice being very high-pitched. Now let's compare these videos to my videos nowadays. So now, I obviously do Storytime. These are scripted videos. They are much better quality, as I record these videos with my computer rather than an iPod, and my voice is also much clearer and deeper. I of course sound older, which is kind of obvious since we're talking about a 5-year difference. One skill I seem to have developed from doing YouTube is speaking up. I can speak up in a clear and loud voice now. In my first video, my voice was not that clear. Now, whenever I watch Storytime, I can clearly hear what I'm saying. I also put more time in my videos now, as I release a Storytime every Friday. To produce these videos, I have to write the script, record background gameplay, put the commentary over the gameplay, and then wait about an hour to upload the video. Back then, I just made the video and called it a day, so maybe about 30 minutes per video. Storytime now generally takes up about 5 hours to make, and that's not including the script or the upload time. One last comparison I want to make too is enjoyment. I absolutely loved doing YouTube when I began. It's what I always wanted to do, so doing it myself felt surreal. But now, I'd say I enjoy it even more than I once did. I absolutely love doing Storytime. I'd argue it's my favorite series I've ever done on YouTube. So my motivation for YouTube has increased from when I began to now. Now for the next best day of my life, I want to take a pretty large jump to March 13th, 2018. So for this backstory, I want to start off by talking about a very dark point in my life. So I began struggling with depression in September of 2017. While I was able to continue life throughout most of it, it began getting out of hand in February of 2018. I became suicidal during this month, mostly from being bullied at school and being bullied online. So if you watched last week's Storytime, you know that March 8th, 2018 was the absolute worst day of my life. This would be the day that I came up with a plan to commit suicide. My science teacher fortunately heard a threat I made and immediately got me the help I needed. Later on that day, I would be taken to the mental hospital. I stayed there for 5 days. So this brings us to March 13th, 2018, the day I got discharged from the hospital. So the day my depression ended would be March 12th, 2018. This mostly came after a conversation with my parents that just really put me in such a great mood. So March 13th, 2018, I was really happy. It was just one of those days I woke up happy and was happy the whole day. Now, I have a reason I was happy that day. I predicted this day I would be discharged, as the doctors noticed how happy I was when me and my parents were talking the night before. And I'd be right. At around 10 o'clock, my doctor told me I'd be discharged that day. She didn't call my mom letting her know I'd be discharged. My mom then picked me up at around 10:30 as she got off work early to pick me up. Adapting to my new life was definitely a little strange. While I was allowed to wear my normal clothes at the hospital, I had to wear these really old and ugly pairs of socks so I wouldn't fall. No longer did I have to wear them, so thank God, but still unusual. Another thing too is that now I have my freedom back. I didn't have freedom at the hospital for pretty obvious reasons. Now I had freedom, which felt strange. Pretty unusual how just 5 nights in a mental hospital can make your normal life feel unusual for the next 2 weeks. In a good way, of course. What was the most unusual was that I no longer was depressed. March 13th, 2018 was the day the post-depression period part 1 began. I explained this time period in depth on Storytime 20, but basically, this time period had the best days of my life. Great things happened left and right. I got stronger, smarter, and overall, I was at my all-time high in terms of happiness. It will last all the way to November of 2018. Anyways, back to March 13th. So that night in our conversation, I told my parents that the food at the hospital tasted like dog shit. To make matters worse, I had to eat the same dog shit for 5 days in a row. So Mom wanted to give me a taste of the outside world, since now I was in the outside world. So we went to a Cracker Barrel about maybe 5 to 10 minutes away. This was quite possibly the best meal I ever ate in my life. I ate pinto beans, mac and cheese, lima beans, and steamed broccoli. And considering Cracker Barrel has the best vegetables, you bet this meal was fantastic. Not eating a single vegetable since the week before, you bet I was in the mood for something healthy. But that day didn't end there. At around 12:30, we went to the intermediate school to pick up my sister. She was only in the 5th grade. Sometimes I look back and wonder, had I actually gone along and killed myself, how would this affect her? She would have been scarred for life. She was only 11 years old. It must have been very scary for her while I was gone. But anyways, we picked her up from school early. She didn't walk to the front office. And then she saw me by the door. She just came running. We then hugged for about 30 seconds. While writing the script for this video, me and my sister actually had a conversation about this whole situation. According to her, she actually did not know I was getting discharged that Tuesday. She also was confused when she was called to leave early, so this definitely must have been an amazing surprise for her. We then went home. When I got home, I went straight to my room and saw a few things on my bed. I saw a letter from my sister on the bed. I read it, and it put me in an even better mood. The letter basically stated that she missed me and was ready for me to get home. While it was a little bit ironic that I read it the day I got home, it still made me really happy. It meant a lot to me knowing that not just my sister, but anyone in general would write to me letting them know that they cared about me. That's what I thought when I was depressed. I believed that nobody cared about me and that I was a waste of life. Turns out, it's the opposite. Many people cared about me, and me realizing that this made me really happy. I don't think she'll ever understand just how much this meant to me, but it meant the world. Another thing I saw was a letter from my grandmother. She too wrote a letter telling me that I was loved and I was important in many people's lives. She also attached a Kit Kat to it, which is, by the way, my favorite candy, as well as some of her world-famous chocolate chip cookies. This letter brightened me up even more. So, as a result of this situation, we decided to start doing more stuff as a family. I think this was a good idea. We began having family dinner almost every night, and I'd say overall, our relationship as a family grew more. After we got home, Mom called Dad letting him know where I was at, and then he left work early. He was very thrilled to see me back home and happy again. That night, we ate dinner together and we played some Uno together. It was really fun. After dinner, I went back to my room and laid around on my recliner. I watched a couple episodes of The Big Bang Theory. Mom also joined in. I fell asleep at around 9:30, which was very unusual because I normally didn't fall asleep until like 11 or 11:30, but I was just so happy in such a great mood that I could rest easily. Mom also fell asleep too. So that night's sleep, as you could guess, was amazing. While I fell asleep on a recliner and not my bed, I was still comfortable simply because I was at home. So all 5 nights at the hospital, I had nightmares about being suicidal. This night would break that streak. I'm not sure what I dreamt about that night, but I bet it was great. Now, those nightmares were not exclusive to the hospital. They were extremely common during the post-depression period part 1. Whenever I talk about this time period, I talk a lot about how much I miss it. However, one aspect I do not miss about it were the nightmares. About every week, I had at least one dream relating to either the events of March 8th or my stay at the mental hospital. What's really unfortunate is that I still have these even 3 years later. Fortunately, they are less common, as I generally have these nightmares about once a month. I still hate it and wish it would stop, but I really can't control my dreams. In fact, the last one I had was just 3 weeks ago. Fortunately, I was woken up by a bolt of lightning midway through, but the dream still disturbed me heavily. But these will end. It just takes time. They've been getting less common since 2018, and now in 2021, they're rarer than ever. So one day they'll end. All I can do is be hopeful and be positive. Now, the next day I want to talk about kind of cheats a little, as it's actually 2 days, April 13th and April 14th of 2018. If you watch Storytime 12, you might be familiar with these days, and this was when D-Now 2018 took place. And you'd be right, D-Now was a blast. This is why these days included as one of the best days of my life. So for the backstory, I want to discuss what happened about 2 weeks before D-Now. So I broke both of my arms trying to jump a tennis net. As a result, I had to wear 2 splints for about 5 days. Then after 5 days, I only had to wear 1 splint, as my right arm was okay. My left arm needed surgery, so I got surgery on April 4th. It went well. I should go ahead and mention that this was not a failed suicide attempt, by the way. It was just me being a dumbass. So as you could probably guess, I had a broken arm during D-Now, so I did miss out on a couple things, but I still managed to have an absolute blast at this event. So now, I won't mention everything, as I literally did an entire story time on this event, but I will mention the important parts, as well as the reason I had 2 of the best days of my life. So that night, I remember sitting at a table while waiting for D-Now to begin. I was talking to a couple friends while eating and even shared a little bit of my food. Then it began. So this night was absolutely legendary. Some band from Little Rock, Arkansas, I believe, came all the way to Charlotte to perform. He also had an announcer who did a great job in hyping up everyone. He also called on a few students to participate in a game. I got called up once. I played the game, and I won a new book. Yeah, despite all the odds against me, I won. I was also kind of forgot the game that we played, but I still remember winning, and I still have the book. Also got to spend the night with all the boys in my grade. While a certain situation at Fuge that June ended our friendship, it was still a blast hanging out with them, before they became assholes. I'll talk about this very briefly later on in the video, but if you want to know all the details, I'll highly recommend Storytime 16, or even last Storytime, as I talk about that. Anyways, they stayed up all night playing Fortnite. I didn't stay up all night though. I went to bed at around 2:30 on Friday and 1:45 on Saturday. Now, that night was incredible. How about we talk about the real reason I remember this as being one of the best days of my life? So that night, April 14th, 2018, we were in a Bible study with, everyone, all the churches. We had a speaker in front of us speaking. I'm not sure what he said, as it's been over 3 years and I cannot remember, but I just felt a calling in my heart, so I answered it. So if you didn't understand anything I just said, I basically gave my life to Christ. It was such a supernatural and surreal experience. Never before had I felt something this intense. Like, when people say there is no God, my experience definitely proves them wrong. No earthly thing could ever match the excitement I had when I accepted Christ. I didn't tell many people about it. All I told were my youth pastor, our group leader for D now, and my parents. But I still felt absolutely amazing, and I should. I just made the best decision I would ever make in my entire life. 3 years later, and I can confirm that yes, this decision when I made when I was 13 is still the best decision I've ever made. In fact, I'll say the same thing in 50 years as well as just the rest of my life in general. If we fast forward a bit to about a month later, on May 13th, that would be the day I got baptized. Just like giving my life to Christ, it too was a surreal and outright incredible experience. It was also on Mother's Day too, so you bet my mom was also really happy that day, knowing her son was going to be spending eternity in heaven just like her. I should also note that both of my parents are saved. They got saved when they were in their 20s. So when reflecting on this whole conflict at church, I sometimes think, was going to this church worth it? While of course there is the conflict, every time I think about it, I always say that it's still worth it just because I got saved. That's all that matters. Who cares if my friends were a bunch of fakes? All that matters is that I have eternal life with a real friend, God. Not only that, but the leaders here are amazing too. My youth pastor is just incredible. It's totally worth it. Now for the fifth day on the list, I want to talk about June 23rd, 2018. So the summer of 2018 was probably the best summer of my life. It was even better than the summer of 2019 or 2016, which is a very difficult thing to do because both of those summers were good. For the backstory, I want to mention Fuge. So if you saw either Storytime 7 or 16 or even the last video, you know I had an awful experience at this church event. This would be the event where I got left out, and the event I ultimately lost all my friends from D now. However, while I did have a bad time, it did provide me with one of the best days of my life. The last day of Fuge, being June 23rd, 2018. What a spectacular day. So as most of y'all know, June 21st is my birthday. While I had plans to celebrate my 14th birthday on the 23rd, my church decided to do it on my actual birthday of the 21st, which resulted in me having probably the worst birthday ever. But yet, I still kept my intentions to celebrate on the 23rd, and I did, and wow, it was incredible. So let's start off with what was happening. So we were packing our stuff to head back to Charlotte. We also got the bus ready. As the drive back from Nashville was about 7 hours. I remember after getting everything loaded, I was playing with a friend by the bench under the hot Nashville sun under a tree. This was the friend who died last November, by the way. We were playing around just in general and having a great time. Then when it was time for the drive back, on the way up there and back, I didn't sit with this friend. Well, I did. He was on the other side of the aisle. I actually sat with his sister, as both of us were also really good friends. She loved Clash Royale, and so we played a bunch of double battles on the way back. It was a great ride back. We then got home at around 7 o'clock that night. This is when the day turned amazing. So this would, of course, be when my parents picked me up from church. We headed back home. They were really excited for me to come home, and I was excited too. I was done with Fuge, and finally I could come back home and enjoy the rest of my summer. After we arrived home, Dad put some burgers on the grill. Not sure what Mom was doing. I simply got my stuff out on the car and got them into my room. On my bed, I see some presents. One of those was a $25 iTunes gift card. I also got some clothes and some games and some money, so I did all set. Then it was time to eat, so we had a family cookout by the pool at around 8:30 that night. June 23rd is one of the longest days of the year, so it was still bright outside. We ate and made a few jokes. We also talked about the upcoming school year. So a little over a month before this day, I got accepted at early college. This would be where I get both a high school diploma and an associate's degree when I graduate. I'm now a rising senior at early college, and my experience has been amazing. We talked about what I would get done at early college as well as my goals. After the dinner ended, My parents stayed by the pool. I went back to my room with an extra cheeseburger as well as a bag of Doritos. With my money, I decided to purchase some music and Bloons Tower Defense 6. Now, I love Bloons Tower Defense. I've been playing it since I was 10 years old, so you bet 14-year-old me was thrilled to see BTD 6 be released. So that's what I bought, and wow, it was such a magical experience getting to play it for the first time. I'm almost 17 years old, and I still get the same thrill from this game, even the one from when I was 14. That's why I enjoy using it as background gameplay for Storytime, as it gives me a great memory. I think I stayed up to around 2 or 2:30 that night playing BTD6. It was such a great night, but I really don't remember all that much. All I remember was playing BTD6 and listening to music while being distracted that I just lost all my friends at Fuge. For the 6th day, I want to jump to August 10th, 2018, my 5th day of high school. I like to consider this day to be the polar opposite of June 18th, 2018. So June 18th was the day I lost all my friends at church after getting left out at Fuge. This day would be the day where I met 4 new friends at my new school on a field trip. I've talked a lot about this day, especially in Storytime 2, which was on freshman year. However, this Storytime had a lot of mistakes and left out a few things. So for the backstory, I want to talk about the environment at early college. So going to school here felt amazing, even though I didn't have any friends just yet. I think it's mostly because I wasn't going to school with any of the bullies from 8th grade, as well as simply because this was during the post-depression period part 1, so I was really happy. I did think that making friends was going to be a challenge, but turns out it was actually the opposite. The school helped out with that. So for most students, the first week of a new school is probably the hardest and sometimes even the worst part of high school. For me, I'd argue this was probably the best week of school for me, but this week would be really defined by August 10th, 2018. So before I talk about this day, I want to mention that in Storytime 2, I said it was August 11th. That was an error. August 11th was that Sunday. This happened on a Friday, and my first day of school was not August 7th, it was August 6th. Just wanted to clarify that. So now, on to the actual day. So all of us freshmen came from 4 different schools. I had no friends just yet. However, this would be the day I made friends. So for the first Friday of the school year, our school takes the freshmen to a city about an hour away. Here, the freshmen get to rock climb and do team building exercises. The reason our school does this is to help the freshmen meet each other and begin friendships. I think that this is genius, as it works perfectly as we're about to see. In fact, I made 4 friends on this day. Since it's related to Storytime, I will mention who these friends are just like I did in Storytime 2 and 6. So that morning, I was pretty excited, so as you could tell, this is one of my good days. Then at around 9 o'clock, we headed on out, so our teachers gave us an assigned seat, which I think was a good idea since none of us were really friends just yet. I was assigned to sit with a kid named Michael. He would be the first friend I made that day, so I really don't remember too much about Michael, as unfortunately he would go back to his own district after freshman year, as he felt like the school was too challenging, which I understand. I hope he's doing well. I never got any contact information from him, so therefore, I haven't talked to him since May of 2019. Anyways, from what I remember, he was a really nice and laid-back kid. So how we became friends was that I pulled up my phone and whipped out some good old Clash Royale. Michael had never played Clash Royale, so he asked a few questions. I didn't answer them and even showed him how to play. It was a really cool experience. Then our conversation escalated into topics outside of Clash Royale, like what middle school we came from or what our parents did. He, of course, came from a different middle school than I did. Not sure about his mother, but I believe that his father was a preacher, so we also had Christianity in common too, which is really nice, as remember, I got saved 4 months before this trip. So then we reached rock climbing, so our teacher split us into 2 different groups. I was in a group different from Michael, so I felt that I might be screwed. However, I met 2 new friends in my group, both of which are still my friends today. The first I want to mention was a kid named Lucas. So Lucas was a little interesting, as we went to the same middle school, but we never had any classes together. This is simply because I was taking 3 high school courses in 8th grade, and he wasn't. We, of course, had different classes in 7th grade too, so we never got the chance to meet. However, we did. Now we did. Well, not really, as I had different classes than him, but we still at least met. We'd at least have the same classes together in junior year, as well as when we begin senior year in 2 months. But to get back on topic, Lucas was really nice and also really funny. We both like memes. It was a great combination. So as mentioned earlier, we were split into 2 groups. One group did the rock climbing in the first and the team building exercise second, and the other would start with the team building exercises. I was in the group that began rock climbing first, and Michael was in the group that started with the team building exercises. Lucas was in the same group as me. We talked while waiting on rock climbing. Now let's discuss the climb. So there were 3 different difficulties: easy, medium, and hard. I did not know this, so when I saw an open spot, I just jumped to it, and because of my luck, I ended up going to the hard. I struggled to get even on the first rock. One of my teachers saw this, and asked a tall kid to help me out. He came over very happily to help. I managed to get on the first rock with his help, but this was all I could do. He also would be the one who helped me back down and congratulated me on getting on the first rock. This is the third friend I made. His name was Dylan. As mentioned, Dylan was very tall. I believe he's like 6'2", but he's also extremely smart. He's going to be our grades valedictorian, so you bet he's a freaking genius. He also liked the same games I did, which made his friends easily. He really liked Pokemon, Clash of Clans, and Geometry Dash, and so did I, so we got along easily. He also loved math, which is something I also love. That would be the only time me and Dylan talked that day, but in the following weeks, we'd become more friends. We'd become better friends. What's really interesting about Dylan, though, is that he's probably watching this video right now. He's been a loyal subscriber since 2018, so he's a legend. He also comments quite a lot, which always really motivates me to write these story times. The team building exercises also went well. While they were quite forgettable, I still remember them as being great ways to meet other people. I remember me and Lucas joking around and having a good time while waiting to pull a tarp over while staying on it in 95-degree weather. Good times. Then it was time to leave, but before we arrived back at school, we went to the Golden Corral. I remember eating with Michael while at the Golden Corral. I don't remember what I ate, but I do remember the bus ride back from Golden Corral. So Michael stole 2 gummy bears. While we were on the bus ride home, he decided to swap the gummy bears' heads and bodies as a joke. It was really funny. What's also interesting about the ride back was that everyone except me and Michael fell asleep. Like, the only noise you could hear on the bus came from the teachers talking to each other and me and Michael acting up. I can understand why everyone fell asleep, though. It was such an amazing day and also a very tiring one, so it made sense why everyone fell asleep. But I guess me and Michael just didn't give a shit, so we just stayed up all night and messed around with gummy bears. To wrap this day up, I want to talk about the final friend I made this day. So if you list all students in our grade by last name alphabetically, I would be second since my last name is Baynard. Therefore, that's how they ordered us by our locker. But because my last name was even, I had a bottom locker. A little bit problematic since I was like 5'5" at the time, but oh well. So this friend was the girl whose locker was above mine. Her name was Gabby. Now, we never actually talked throughout the trip. We just simply talked here. We actually started talking the first day of school, since her locker was above mine, and pretty obviously we talked. However, what I remember was cracking a joke to her. I don't remember what joke I cracked, but she laughed quite a lot. This would be when I thought, I think I'm going to enjoy the 9th grade, and that was true. Freshman year was a blast. So while writing the Storytime scripts, I interviewed many of my fellow classmates. Seems like they had a very similar experience to me, although they couldn't go into detail as most of them don't remember too much. I'd say that everyone made at least 2 friends on this trip. Of course, there are some who made more, such as myself making 4. So in a way, I can say that I'm friends with, or at least acquaintances with, everyone in my grade, something I would have never been able to say as an 8th grader. So you bet 9th grade was a billion times better. For the 7th day, let's take a leap to March 8th, 2019. Wait, hold on. I thought March 8th was the worst day of my life. Well, yeah, March 8th, 2018 was, but 2019, on the other hand, was one of the best days of my life. See, if you watched last week's Storytime, you would know that March 8th was the day that I came up with a plan to kill myself. It was such a nasty and brutal day. So therefore, me and my family decided to celebrate it 1 year later in order to celebrate me still being alive and being in a way better spot than I was the year before. So that morning, I wake up at the normal time. I got up, 6:30. When I woke up and went to the kitchen, Mom and Dad had made breakfast for me. This was very unusual, as very rarely do they cook breakfast. So this was really nice. I ate an egg omelet, some bacon, and some pancakes. Before I left for school, my dad gave me a $20 bill and told me that I could spend it at the vending machines. Now, our school has vending machines. Well, the college does. We were not allowed to go over there on the vending machines except right before or after college. This was a Friday, so therefore college began at 9 o'clock and ended at 11:15 rather than the end of the day. So therefore, I could go to the vending machines that morning before business, which was my college class during the time. My mom packed my lunch too. Now, this is also very rare. Normally, I pack my lunch. However, my mom decided to pack my lunch this day since it was a very special day after all. Now let's talk about arriving to school. So now during this time, me and my English teacher had a lot of conflict with each other. We basically got into fights about every day. So since then, our relationship has changed drastically. However, on this day, she was not there, so I got lucky. Now, our school begins at 8:30. The first class of the day was crew, which I explained in Storytime 11, but basically, all you need to know is that my English teacher was also my crew teacher, so since she was not here that day, I had to go to a different crew teacher's room. I was assigned to my math teacher's room. He was a really nice and really wise person. He retired last year though, but I still remember him for being an amazing teacher. He, however, was not there for crew that day, so it was just all of us talking. I mostly talked to Dylan during crew, since this was his crew. Then came 9 o'clock, time for business. So before I went to business, I stopped at the vending machines to spend $20. I believe I bought like $4 or $10 worth of food and drinks. So you bet I was in a really good mood for business. I actually bought extra food and drinks as I decided that since I was in such a good mood, I might as well share. So I did. I set aside a friend, so I gave him a couple drinks too. and some snacks. He also had gone to be in a great mood that day. I remember sometime midway through our class, our professor let us have a break. Now, me and this friend sat in front of his desk. Our professor told us, "I see you two are having a feast," and we all laughed together. The rest of business was nothing special. After business, it was time for lunch. As stated before, Mom made my lunch. She also wrote a note that said that I was loved and I was important to so many people. I normally hate it when my parents attach notes, but this note made me really happy. After all, this was a very special day for me, so I let it slide. Then came first block of high school, being English. So as said before, my English teacher was not there that day, so it was just really a free period. I did a bunch of random shit on my Chromebook, and that was that. The rest of the day at school was also forgettable, so as it went by pretty normally. However, that night was abnormal just like morning, so we as a family decided to order pizza that day. We were normally going to go to Cracker Barrel, but I had plans to record a YouTube video, so we just ordered pizza instead. The pizza was delicious. Afterwards, I went to record and upload that video, so overall, a very fun and great way to celebrate how much I've changed since March 8th, 2018, as well as to celebrate the fact that I was still alive with everyone and hadn't done anything to myself. Now for the 8th day, we're going to talk about March 23rd, 2019. So sometime in November, the post-depression period part 1 ended. It came due to stress at school, demotivation for swim, and fights with my English teacher. However, I would resume the post-depression period on this day. So starting February 2019, I really wanted to quit the swim team. I hated swimming with my coach, who was always a dick to us. My sister also wanted to quit, so it kind of started a feud in our house. My mom wanted me and my sister to quit, as she hated this coach. As well as just because of how disrespectful he was and uncooperative he was. My dad wanted us to continue swimming so that we could stay in shape. We had a pretty big argument on March 10th about this. So why was March 23rd, 2019 such a great day? Well, first off, I woke up happy. It was one of those good days, but later on, I would have something to be happy about. So at around lunchtime, Dad told me that we were going to be eating at a restaurant we all love. I won't mention it, since it's local, but I will say their food is incredible. They also had a balcony with a ring toss game, which is what we played while waiting on our food. To add to that, we were the only people there, so we basically had the balcony to ourselves. It was a great time, but then we got our food. While eating, Dad made an announcement. He stated that he was going to let me and my sister quit swimming. I almost spat out the food in my mouth. Holy shit, he's actually letting us quit. Needless to say that I was really hyped after this announcement, as I had been fighting to quit since February, and had been unmotivated since September, so me and my sister were really happy. Later on that night, my mom emailed our coach letting him know that we were quitting the team. He was probably pretty butthurt over it, as he didn't respond. Really childish and rude of him. But hey, we're the winners here. In fact, I won so good that I decided, you know what? How about we resume the post-depression period? This day would begin the post-depression period part 2. This time period would last all the way until March 15th, 2020. As I've stated in Storytime 21, while part 1 was better, part 2 was still absolutely incredible, and I was still at a very high point in my life. In fact, part 2 is why I consider 2019 to be the best year of my life. 2018 takes a close second, and 2016 takes third. Now for the 9th day on this list, I want to jump just a little bit to Tuesday, May 21st, 2019. This would be my last day of freshman year. So, as stated earlier, freshman year was a great school year. However, it was a challenging school year. It's pretty obvious why. I was taking full-blown college courses at only 14 years old. But nonetheless, I got through it and even made A's and B's in both high school and college. Although I probably could have made all A's had I not been a dumbass the first 3 quarters of the school year. So while my parents could not attend this award ceremony, my grandmother did since she was taking me to school. So therefore, she attended. When we arrived at school, I guided her to her room and we held the award ceremony and got her seat. I then went to my first block, being English. So I had a lot of friends in English, so we all gathered around together and played some Geometry Dash. We were all trying to play the Nightmare, which is considered to be one of the easiest demons in the game. Nobody at our school had beaten a demon before. We didn't beat it that day, since it takes a lot of time to beat these kind of levels. I would become the first person to beat a demon at school though, which I beat the Nightmare in December of 2019. I'm still the only person at school who has even beaten a demon, although not really impressive considering only like 5 of us even played Geometry Dash. But I'll talk about Geometry Dash in its own story time. Let's talk about the main event that day. So for the most part, this award ceremony was actually kind of forgettable. I didn't win anything, and overall, it just didn't stick out. But there was an event that really stuck out. So our school really likes a good book called Big Plans. It's basically a book about a kid who's got big plans. Big plans, I say. I'm in! He talks about how he's going to tell the world he's got big plans, and even goes to Washington, D.C. to get the president. And yeah, this kid is going places, although more than likely that kid was just smoking weed. But that's not why I bring this up. The reason is because we got a teacher to read this book in front of everyone. In front of the students, and the other teachers, the parents, and the principal. In fact, I think even the superintendent might have been at the ceremony, although I doubt it. So he was reading the book, doing normal, but then he accidentally said, "Listen here, big shit." Immediately, the room burst out in laughter. Even the principal laughed at this, and he was known for not laughing that much. I, of course, laughed too. I mean, saying shit in front of the people that he was reading to was pretty funny. My grandmother found it even funnier than I did, as it did take a little bit to calm her down. The teacher made the face that was like, "I just goofed up." But eventually, he finished the book, so it's all good. Afterwards, my grandmother signed me out. We then went to a different high school so that I could turn in my driver's ed form. Afterwards, we headed back home. Now, nothing memorable happened at home. I do remember spending a bunch of time on my phone. I also cooked a toaster strudel in like 2 in the afternoon, but that's about it. So like D now, this kind of counts as 2 days. The other day I want to mention is that Saturday, being May 25th, 2019. So my parents decided to reward me for simply getting through freshman year. It was a very difficult year. Not only was I going to a new school with completely different people, but I also was taking college classes as only a 9th grader. So they decided to buy me a Switch to reward me. They also bought Mario Kart 8 Deluxe with it. So I stayed up at around 3 in the morning that night playing some good old Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So that summer of 2019 was overall fantastic. Probably the second best summer of my life, only behind the summer of 2018. Now I want to take one massive leap to the final and most recent day on this list, being January 22nd, 2021. This was just 5 months ago, so I'll remember a lot more from that than let's say June 7th, 2016. So this date took place during the age of coronavirus. It resulted in us having to stay at home and really making a lot of people feel isolated. One of those people would be my grandmother, not the grandmother who went to my award ceremony, the other one. So she lives in Asheville. I live in Charlotte, so she's a little bit away from us. She also lived alone, as her husband died 5 years ago, so she's pretty lonely. So starting in December of 2020, me and my sister began going to our house every other Friday. January 22nd was a Friday we went to our house. So often, I like to think of this day as kind of a reward for an American history project I did the day before. So that Thursday, I worked 6.5 hours on this project. While it took a long time, I was successful and made an A, so this was kind of a reward for my hard work. Another thing too is that the day before, my sister sprained her ankle at cheer practice. My parents decided to let it go, but that morning, her ankle still hurt, so mom had to take her to the doctor. Therefore, I got to go to my grandmother's alone. So let's talk about the drive to Asheville, because it's incredible. Pretty obviously, I'm used to busy interstates. I live in a city with a population of about 900,000 people. Of course I'm used to busy roads. So the interstate to Asheville is generally not that busy. Although when we went to Gatlinburg back in April, it was really busy. But it's generally not that busy. This day in particular, though, was not busy at all. In fact, I think I only spotted like 2 or 3 cars on my way up there. That is when I hit the interstate to Asheville. Of course, I started seeing a billion cars at first. Not only that, but it was really warm for January that day, and the landscape is incredible, as Asheville is up in the mountains. So I rolled down the window and listened to some music while going 85 miles an hour. It was an amazing feeling. I then arrived at her house. We then went to a pizza place about 30 minutes away from her house. The pizza was delicious. Afterwards, I said goodbye to her and headed back home, just like the trip up there. The trip back was also incredible. So after this trip ended, I was in a good mood. That night, my parents asked me to take my sister to her friend's house. Weird that she was spending the night with someone with a boot on, but I can't say anything. I spent 2 nights with 12 other boys with a broken arm at D Now 2018, so I can't complain. So her friends live about 30 minutes away. So as a payment, my parents generally let me get food. Most of the time, I get takeout after dropping my sister off. That's what I did here. After dropping her off, I went to get some chicken and broccoli. It was absolutely delicious. I didn't eat breakfast. I got pizza for lunch and got takeout for dinner. I ate really well that night. So that's all I got for Storytime today. Next week, on June 18th, 2021, I'll be talking about the history of my YouTube channel, since my channel is going to be turning 5 years old. Anyways, that's all I got for this video, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye! Okay, we're done with Storytime. Now we're at the Q&A part, as well as the part where I read all of Robbie's stuff. Fun fact, the same school year was the beginning of the detention joke. Ah yes, detention, double detention, triple detention, over 9,000 detention, infinite detention. Yeah. That was, yeah, that was pretty funny. I honestly missed that joke. Me and Robbie had that joke since 6th grade. We did it all the time through 7th grade, and that's kind of where it died. Okay, the same year, another fun fact, this is the same day as my birthday. Yeah, June 22nd, 2004 was actually when Robbie was born. I am 1 day older than Robbie. So, when Zach first started YouTube, I would joke with him about it, having just learned I found him pretty funny, pretty cool. I kept up most ever since. Yeah, Robbie's been like Robbie has been a very loyal subscriber since I told him about it. This wasn't until 2018 when I told him about it, but like he's been a big fan since. And it's nice having Robbie online. Like literally, whenever like we have a saying on my channel. It's not a live stream without Robbie. Well, not really live stream. It's not a Pokemon Showdown without Robbie because like me and Robbie, like Robbie is just perfect for streams. All right, he has an incredible personality, and he's just always so he's always so upbeat, and he always makes Pokemon Showdowns so fun. Like it's hard for me to even do a Pokemon Showdown without Robbie. Honestly, like I don't know how I did them without him at first. So, when Zach first got sent to the mental hospital, I had no clue and was running around worried until he got back, which I bombarded him. Yeah, Robbie had a few questions, though. Because, I mean, everyone was confused. Like, I believe if y'all heard I want to think it was Storytime 20. Yeah, I talked about the post-depression period. I believe at the beginning, I talked about one class in particular that was very concerned about me. It was the second block science class. I would actually be transferred to that class. I'd get my classes switched, and I would start going to that class. And needless to say that, like, I was one of the most loved people in that class. Like, I mean, I could have sat with the popular kids at lunch, but I chose to instead sit with my friends. But it's just that class was worried about me. I didn't even have that class, so for them to be worried about me, that made me really happy. Crazy thing, the same year I just... Oh, yeah, So, Robbie doesn't like it when I say this, but, so, we were waiting to go to some baseball game. I believe it was like a minor league game. I did not attend it. I didn't want to, and, I mean, it made sense. I had a broken arm, so I just stayed. But, like, literally, I was in that room. Robbie was about to leave, but then he was trying to do a Fortnite dance, and then he ended up falling and dislocated his knee. That was, this might hurt Robbie a bit, but that was pretty funny. But, I mean, it was serious, but, I mean, looking back on it, it's pretty funny. Yeah, and I tried to get into early college as well, but I got... Oh, well, I actually didn't know that. Robbie, I actually didn't know that you applied to go to early college. Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, that's one thing I didn't like about early college, though, was that splitting away from, like, my friends, as well as Robbie. That kind of sucked, but, I mean, it's still a good thing, though, that, it's also a good thing for me, too, because I met many new people. I think that had I wish Robbie would come to early college, though. He would have loved it. Oh, God. Robbie's gonna attack me for talking about the time he dislocated his knee. And yes, I is big fan of Speed Beans. Yes, that is another meme on my whenever we live stream Pokemon Showdown. Speed Beans. Yeah, that's a meme. See, this is what I mean. Robbie is the most important. It's not even me that's the most important part of Pokemon Showdown. It's Robbie. He's what makes a Pokemon Showdown fun. It's not Pokemon Showdown without Robbie. That's why. Just whenever he says Speed Beans, that always makes me happy. So, I'm gonna stay online for a bit, and if y'all got any more questions, y'all feel free to answer them. Yeah, I'm done with the script, so... Yeah. Not gonna lie, I really like this setup. Because, like, when I was trying to... Like, obviously, as y'all know, the reason I'm doing this setup is because both Storytime 24 and 22 weren't working, and obviously on my Discord server, we called it the Curse of 22, and so this setup is just awesome. I'm thinking I'm going to continue this setup for future story times, so I think it'll work great. Tomorrow I'm gonna record the one for my junior year, which is Storytime 22. That stream is going to be a lot longer than this one, though. Like, I believe that script is 24,000 words on, I believe, 56 pages. So it's going to be about 2 hours long. But I'll still be able to do I'll still do the Q&A, and I'll also wait on y'all. So y'all don't have to worry. Yeah, you are the heart of and the soul of the showdown. You are Robbie. It's not a live stream without you. It really isn't. Like, legit, I've tried watching, like, my first Pokemon Showdown stream, which was October of 2019. I actually talked about it a little bit on my, for next week's Storytime, which is going to be on the history of my YouTube channel. Honestly, that was a pretty hard stream to watch. It was just boring. Like, literally, like, I mean, Ryan and Robbie were in the chat, so, I mean, I at least had that to look at, but, like, it's just that they weren't on the stream. We weren't in a voice chat. They weren't making it fun. And then I watched, like, my most recent, the first stream that Robbie ever participated in. I forgot what a Pokemon Showdown was. I mentioned that one in particular, too. I know that was streamed July 31st, 2020. That was the longest stream that I ever done. That was over 3 hours. That was 3 hours and 10 minutes long, by the way. The only reason it managed to hit that long is because of Robbie. Just Robbie made that stream so fun. And, like, we played for 3 hours just because Robbie made it so fun. So, I got Robbie to thank. And now, if you're wondering why I haven't been doing Pokemon Showdown streams, it's mostly because, like, it's mostly due to mic issues. Like, for some reason, my mic isn't working with Discord, so I still haven't got that fixed. I'm going to fix it one day, though, and I will continue doing Pokemon Showdown streams, as Showdown streams are really fun. And, once again, Robbie makes streams so fun. Like, it's not a Pokemon Showdown without Robbie. And yeah, we need to do it soon. I won't be able to do it next week. Next week I'm going to be pretty busy. So, I'm actually going to be recording Storytime 25 next week, which is on the history of my YouTube channel. I'm going to be recording that Thursday night rather than Friday. The reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to be pretty busy next week. So, that Friday, I'm going to be in Raleigh. And so, Raleigh is about, like, 3 hours away from Charlotte. So, therefore, I'm going to have to wake up pretty early, and I'm going to be spending the day in Raleigh, so... And it'll be fun. That's literally going to be my first time going to Raleigh. It's weird, because I've been to multiple state capitals. I've been to Richmond, been to Atlanta, I've been to Annapolis, been to Nashville, I think I've been to Frankfurt, I've been to, I want to say I've been to Birmingham. I don't think I've been to Birmingham. I've been to Dover. Just to name a few, but yet I've never been to my state. I'm from North Carolina. I've never been to Raleigh, which is weird. But I mean, I live in the largest city. I just haven't been to the capital. So, but that'll be fun going to Raleigh. So, but then when I get home, I have to immediately start packing because literally the next day I'm going to be off to the beach. So, therefore, I need to start packing. And I'm also taking my own truck there. I believe I'm going to actually be driving to the beach with my mom. My dad's going to be taking the van with my sister as well as her friend because her friend is coming over. And that's how we're going to celebrate my 17th birthday as well as my dad's 50th birthday because he's turning 50 years old. So really big congratulations to him. So that's how we're going to celebrate. We're going to celebrate at the beach. I believe for my birthday, we're going to go to NASCAR. We're going to go to a NASCAR speedway, which, I mean, I live in Charlotte. We're really big on NASCAR because, I mean, we have the Charlotte motorway. So that'll be fun. As for Dad's birthday, I'm not too sure exactly. More likely it's just going to be a day on the beach, but it might be something different. We might do something. I'm not sure. And, of course, that Sunday is Father's Day, too, so we got to do something special that day as well. Dad's got two celebrations up there at the beach, so that's gonna be pretty funny. He's got Father's Day and his not just any birthday, but his 50th birthday. He's gonna have a lot of fun up there, I know, and I think I'm gonna have a lot of fun up there too. There will be a day that I have to do some schoolwork because I'm gonna be I'm taking a class called College Transfer Success. It's required for me to graduate. literally, I had the pickiest professor ever. She literally will take points off if we do a discussion board the day that it's due, or 2 days, or the latest that we could do a discussion board is 2 days before it's due. That's really stupid in my opinion, but so I'll have to do some work up there. Yeah, we got birthdays coming up. Yeah, we do. Both of us are celebrating our 17th birthday in in a week, or in a week and a half. So that's really cool. I didn't forget about you, Robbie. I was just talking about the beach trip and what's happening then. And also another thing I want to mention is that the week I'm at the beach, or that week that I'm supposed to do story time, being the June 25th, I will not be releasing a story time the week. That will be the first time ever that I take a break from story time. The reason I'm doing that is because I actually have decided that I want to take a break obviously for the beach, but even if I wasn't going to the beach, I would be taking a break anyways, because I just need a break after doing YouTube for 5 years. And I've consistently done story time since its conception, so I think it's time for a break after 25 episodes. And then I'll also be taking another break in July 30th. So I'm going to be in Philadelphia in that during that week. So therefore, I'm actually going to be I'm going to be taking off story time that week against my will, though. I didn't want to take it off, but I'm going to have to. So just a little bit of update for y'all. And I'll also talk about another break that is going to be a very large break next week. I'm actually going to talk about a large break that'll be in January of 2022. And I'll just say that it involves college. So I'll just say that. I won't say when the break is and how long it is. So, because as most of y'all know, I'm graduating early, and that means I'm going off to college in January. So that's gonna be very difficult, but I think it'll be really good for me, and I'm excited for it too. I'm really excited to move out the house and be independent, that stuff. I think it's gonna be fun, and well, I mean, it's gonna be hard. Oh, cool! I actually didn't know you were from New York, Robbie. But yeah, I hope you enjoy your trip at New York. I'm gonna be pretty close to New York. I'm gonna be in Pennsylvania in July. Wait, around what time frame are you gonna be in New York? Because I'm gonna be in Philadelphia the last week of July. So I have no soda in my cup. Yeah, I hope you have fun in New York, though. I thought I was going to be going to New York last December, but I ultimately didn't go to New York, so I want to go to New York one day. I want to travel to all 50 states. That's one goal I have. I really want to go to by July 14th. Yeah, mid-July. All right. Okay, so we're not going to be out of town at the same time, though. You're going to be in New York and mid-July, and then I'm gonna be in Pennsylvania the end of July, so that's all right. But yeah, as I was saying, I want to travel to all 50 states, and I also want to, if I can, travel to every country. I know that's gonna be pretty difficult. It's gonna be weird trying to travel to. It's gonna be weird trying to take a vacation to, I don't know, Syria. Or I'm going to take a vacation to freaking Iran. That'll be weird, but I'll have to do it if I want to go to all the countries. But I also want to go to, if I can't do that, I want to at least go to all 50 states. Me and my parents have been talking. So, in order to celebrate when I graduate high school, we're not going to do it that January, the month after I graduate. We're instead going to wait until May, which will be when the actual graduation ceremony for high school is. What we're going to do is that after that, we're probably going to take a trip to the Bahamas. And so I think that'll be fun. That'll be the first time I ever go out of the country. We were originally going to go to the Bahamas in April of 2020, but that got canceled because of coronavirus. So I think me and the boys have been planning a huge road trip. Oh, nice. I love road trips, actually. Like, that's the thing, though. As you can tell, I like to travel, and I love road trips. So I've been taking a few road trips myself. I've been starting to take road trips by myself. Like, just yesterday, I took a road trip to Hickory. Hickory is a pretty large city, about an hour away from Charlotte. So it was really cool. And also going up, it's north. It's much north. So that was pretty interesting because I normally don't go north. Normally when I get to stuff, I'm normally going south or west because I live in northeastern Charlotte. Well, not eastern, western. I live in northwestern Charlotte. So I'm normally going like southeast because that's where that's where the Charlotte hub is. So yeah, where are y'all planning on taking a road trip to? Or are you off? Okay, Robbie's off, so I think I'm gonna end the stream here. So, and in the comments, I'm actually going to mention the timestamps for Storytime. So therefore, you'll have the timestamp for when I begin if you ever want to watch this again. So anyway.